Welcome to the CX Live Dialogues. We're delighted to have with us today Dan Hayes, Director of Customer Experience at Cyara. Dan is an accomplished professional with a strong background in telecommunications in the UCaaS and CCaaS space. As Director of Customer Experience at Cyara, Dan's technical and business knowledge have played a pivotal role in bringing solutions to his customers that bring real value by improving quality, reducing cost, and bringing significant improvement in customer experience. Welcome, Dan. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you very much, Ayusha. It's great to be here and great to have the opportunity to speak to yourself and ultimately to your listeners and viewers.
Certainly. Now, all the things that you talk about, improving quality, reducing costs, bringing significant improvement, are definitely challenges that all CX leaders are grappling with in today's date. The first question I'd like to ask is, how are Cyara's solutions enabling enterprises to differentiate and create new value for their customers?
It's a great question, Ayusha. And if I just maybe think about that for a moment and kind of bring it back, what I always kind of try to do is bring things back to first principles. You know, enterprises are out there, they're innovating, and they're innovating in all different, using different technologies to come up with different types of solutions for customers. And ultimately, they're using, cutting edge technologies. And cutting edge technologies, by default, it almost brings, there's huge opportunity, but there's also risk and complexity. So fundamentally, what enterprise customers come to us for they come to us to help them, to bring those innovative solutions to market and to use us ultimately to reduce the risk, because, with our comprehensive suite of tools, we can help do in-depth quality assurance of those innovative solutions that they're bringing to market, such that ultimately we're reducing the cost to bring things to market, but we're ensuring that when they come to market, that they're bug-free, that they're ultimately being implemented correctly, and they're bringing positive customer experience at the end of the day. And I might just give you a few examples of that, if I may. So, whether you're using, WebRTC for maybe a voice and video endpoint for a customer to engage in a solution, whether it's a contact center or whether it is a UCaaS platform, there can be complexities depending on where that endpoint is. How many endpoints can you support in parallel? Can you support 10,000 endpoints at any particular point in time, day or night? They'll use our services to go and evaluate those specific use cases. So that's maybe just one example of where customers use our services to differentiate themselves in the market.
Sounds wonderful. Now, obviously, increasing brands are gravitating towards conversational AI for elevating their CX strategies. How do you see this evolving?
Yeah, conversational AI, it's interesting. Again, obviously that it's going to continue to grow. Okay, it's on a very, very fast upward trajectory, and it's gathering pace. And it's interesting, actually, generative AI is now coming to the fore as well, which is even more complex. But if we look at standard conversational AI, that's been around a while now. And again, adoption can be complex. Again, as I mentioned previously, it's cutting edge technology. It brings complexity. If you get it wrong, it's a very, very poor customer experience, which brings a whole pile of, negative impacts for a business. If you just consider it, a person engages with a bot, and it's a conversational AI bot. They're interacting with the bot, and after a period of time, it comes to naught, and ultimately the bot redirects the customer back over to an agent. So you've invested money you've invested a lot of money to implement a conversational AI environment. That's number one. Number two is you've ultimately provided a bad experience. And number three is you've now gone back to the agent again. So you've actually increased your cost base because you've invested in new technology, and you reduced your customer experience. So that's the worst of both worlds. But it will continue to grow, and using our services, actually, what customers are doing ultimately is reducing the risk by getting it right first time and implementing very, very functional AI implementations that improve customer experience and customer journeys. But market forces are simply going to dictate that conversational AI is on an upward trajectory, and it's going to keep growing.
Definitely. And some of the challenges that you're talking about with conversational AI adoption are so spot on. We listen to leaders every day talking about similar challenges. Now, in terms of enabling a clear adoption pathway for these senior executives, what sets Cyara apart from other players in the global market? Can you mention some of the notable work you've done with your clients, which gives confidence to our listeners on why Cyara could be the right technology platform to go forward with?
Okay, an interesting one. Let me think about that for a second. Okay, I guess probably our depth and breadth of the solutions that we bring to the market. Now, if you take a customer journey, whether it's on a telephony ingress point or a telephony egress point, so we provide assurance services onto the ingress and egress of telephony systems, whether it's into a contact center environment, a UCaaS environment, a CPaaS environment. So we provide all of those services. On the inside, on the core components in the contact center, from whether it's initially designing an IVR solution or ultimately providing assurance around an in-production IVR solution. We have a whole suite of services in that space. And then, it comes to the various areas of AI, whether it's conversational AI or generative AI, using our Botium portfolio. We're providing, a rich suite of services there to reduce the risks and thus costs of bringing those to market. And then maybe finally, in the whole area of WebRTC, where even right now we're using WebRTC in this voice and video engagement, and voice and video is also used for customer experiences. And I might give you one example of that. We're working with currently a very large international airline, and they're bringing booths into the airports where a customer can engage in a voice and video engagement directly back with an agent. From anywhere, from airports all over the world. And they're using our technology ultimately as part of the whole quality assurance testing for that service globally. And as well in the chatbot environment, and this is very, very interesting actually, we're kind of interested in this one ourselves. We're working with one of the leaders in generative AI. We've run some tests with them recently where they had 37 intents on a generative AI bot, and we identified 2.7 billion test cases. That cannot be done by humans. So we're using AI ourselves in the background, but it just gives you an idea, because for 37 intents that to test that correctly, there are that many test cases identified. And then maybe finally, some customers are taking our technology, our software technology in particular, and they're actually embedding it into their own solutions. And this particularly around the whole area of WebRTC quality assurance.
Sounds wonderful, Dan. Now, what are the key trends you have observed as customer experience and customer service digitize and transform?
Yeah, another interesting question. And I guess from going to a number of events this year, and obviously we speak with our own customers on a day-to-day basis, but you get a sense, I would say there's about three things happening that we're hearing loud and clear at various events. In no particular order, one is migration to the cloud. So, lots of customers are still on-prem contact center environments, and there's a lot of migration to the cloud, and that's complex. You're moving to an environment where you have complete control over, ultimately, and that includes the network, the agents, etc., etc. You know, you're moving to a cloud environment, and you know you've also taken into consideration what's happening with COVID, where the agents are now working from home. So you know, you're to a certain extent, what we're finding is people are feeling a little bit vulnerable in the sense that they're losing control both of the agent's environment and of the contact center environment themselves. And ultimately, they're using our services to ultimately help them in that transformation journey. And that's one area. The other is the adoption of conversational AI, as I mentioned earlier. That's becoming more and more prevalent. A lot of discussions around that. And as I mentioned earlier, if you get it wrong, it's very costly. So you have to get it right first time. Now, you cannot have customers having bad user experiences on that customer journey, because that can be very, very costly. And the reality is, I think it's over 90% of customers don't actually complain. But what they'll do actually is they just simply won't come back. So it's important there to get it right first time. So that's the conversational AI journey. And what we're hearing more and more, and I guess it's a little bit early days, but the discussions have certainly started. It's going to be the adoption of generative AI. And generative AI, obviously, you know, with the large language models, it's got huge potential. But it's also a lot more complex than a standard non-generative AI model to go and implement. So again, it's quite complex. You know, there's all sorts of biases built into generative AI. So it's more complex to implement. But if you go back to the innovators will always want to take the new technology because they see the potential of it, and ultimately they're engaging with us to help them on that journey. So they're just kind of three things that we see happening in the market.
Definitely. I think you've picked the pulse very well, Dan. We're seeing it ourselves that these are the topics that are constantly coming up in terms of new adoption, in terms of current challenges that everyone's grappling with. Now, what would you say is the top technology enabler that is driving the transformation we are seeing in customer engagement and management?
Yeah, again, I'd go back to, you know, it is AI, and it's probably generative AI. And again, we're at the early stages. It's more kind of at the almost conceptual design stages. You know, how are we going to harness this huge engine which is now becoming available? And you know, the innovators in this space, and they tend to be the leaders. They tend to be the leaders. They're here right now, figuring out how to use generative AI to transform their organizations. And the ones that do it successfully, you know, they will take a leap forward in the whole delivery of customer experience, because it is going to be transformational in the whole user experience and customer experience environments. You know, whether it's in a contact center environment, a UCaaS environment, et cetera, you know, it is going to be a step change, and a substantial step change.
Certainly. Thank you, Dan. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today, and we look forward to meeting you and the Cyara team at the CX Live show in London on the 26th and 27th September, where we'll be deep diving into a lot of issues that currently need addressal in order to amplify CX engagements. So looking forward to seeing you there, and until then, have a great day ahead.
Okay, Ayusha, thank you very much. It's been great speaking with you, and I'm looking forward to meeting lots of, I guess, delegates and attendees at the event in London in September.
Likewise. Take care, Dan. Speak soon then. Bye for now.
Thank you very much. Bye.